Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I've got on the bench today one of two of the boat anchor style Hallicrafters receivers that I picked up at a Hamfest early this year. This one is the model S-40A. So I actually went to the Hamfest to get rid of some of my surplus equipment, and I brought some stuff, and one of the things I brought was I think it was an SX99 Hallicrafters that was in working condition that I decided to sell. And I sold that one and was kind of like, oh, great, I got rid of that big boat anchor. And so what do I end up doing? I couldn't resist. And it was either at that Hamfest or the following one that I picked up not one, but two more of these boat anchors. And one of them is in really sorry shape. This one might be the better of the two only because it still has the cord on it. The other one already has the cord cut off of it, which is never a good sign. But that being said, let's get the camera set up here and we'll take a look at this thing and see whether or not we can breathe any life out of it. And again, this is a model S40A. And oh, in case you're curious, I think I paid about 10 bucks a piece. I think I get the pair of these for 20 bucks, which I looked inside and the tubes were still in there, and I was like, oh, well, heck, if there's any good used tubes in there, that's probably worth the 20 bucks. Maybe the knobs or whatever. Let's see. So let's take a quick look at the front controls here. So we've got the tuning dial indicator here. We have what appears to be a band switch. Let's see, we've got a sensitivity control, volume control, AVC. So that's going to be like an automatic gain. A CW AM switch. Maybe there's an oscillator in here that injects a tone for receiving CW signals, Morse code, that kind of thing. We've got the tuning knob and the band spread knob. They both seem to be actually at least turning however they're attached. We'll look at that in a moment. All right, so here's our on switch, which is also a combination on switch and tone control with high, medium, and low. We've got a pitch control. And we've got a standby and receive switch. So standby would be B plus is shut off and the filaments are just lit. And when you flip it to receive, that would turn on the B plus supply, send the full voltage to the tubes. We've got a phone jack, but we also have what appears to be maybe an internal speaker, which is, I'm hoping there is, because that's kind of nice. The last one I had there, the SX99, I think it only had a phone jack, and we had to hook up an external speaker, and my bench is such a mess, I don't have a lot of room, but I digress. Let's see what the back looks like. Alright, so on the back we've got the typical antenna hookup, ground terminal. What we got here? What are they doing? Alright, looks like they got a piece of copper wire here. They're jumpering one of the antenna terminals to ground, so what would that be, like for an unbalanced system? Not sure what this is. What we got going here? We got a 5-pin plug here, and then we've got an octal plug here. Now, I'm wondering whether or not there was a matching transmitter that was available for purchase with this thing, and that might be what this plug is for. Might be to allow the transmitter to hook up to this so that when you keyed the transmitter, it shut the receiver off. So that's like they did that on the Browning Golden Eagle CB radios of years ago. So if you have like a Browning receiver on the bench and you want to work on it, you can't get it to do anything unless you have a jumper in here or you have the transmitter hooked up to this. So as it goes, I think it sends a B plus out of this thing over to the transmitter through a relay and back to here. So I have to keep that in mind if we don't get anything to come out of this thing. And what I mean by getting something to come out of this thing is sound, hopefully, not smoke. So this is a little rusty, as to be expected, with a lot of these that have been sitting around. Alright, so it doesn't look too bad in there, considering the age of the unit. Oh, so we've got a dial string in there, which is working great. So when I change the band spread and the tuning knob position, I can see it's moving the tuning condenser so that's great. All the tubes are present and accounted for, and there is a speaker in there. That's nice. I wonder if that speaker's original. The speaker brand on it is a Comet. So as I will often do with old radios and equipment like this that I've never known the history of, I will power this up on a device like this. This is called a Variac. So what this will allow me to do is, this will allow me to start the power off at 0 volts AC and slowly bring the power up. We'll wake up all those old caps and everything slowly and make sure there isn't anything really horrible going on in there before we try and power this thing up all the way. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to make sure that so that's on. All right. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make extra sure that I am not touching the metal case of this radio in any way, for a couple of reasons. Well, for one thing, this plug is not polarized, which means I could plug it in either way. So for starters, I guess we'll leave it in standby mode, and we'll just see if we can get the filaments to light. So I'm going to want the power switch on. Noise limiter is not going to make a difference right now. We will put it on AM though. And we will have the automatic voltage controller off. We'll put the volume about halfway up. Alright, so let's turn the Variac on. And we'll bring it up to about 40 volts or so. See if the tubes light. The bulb for behind here is lighting. This bulb is not, so that might just be a burnt out bulb. But that's a good sign. We're getting voltage out of this thing. Okay. The tubes are lighting. Yeah, I am seeing the filaments light on these tubes. So let's dial this back down. And let's turn on the standby. Switch to receive. Bring this voltage back up. Slowly at first. Getting a small faint hum. Oh, it's getting louder. A little bit of scratchiness in the speaker when I move the volume control. That's a good sign. Bring the voltage up a little higher. Let's try the band switch. Let's see if when I touch the antenna terminals with this metal screwdriver, whether or not I get any static. I'd say it has pretty dead ears. So I was just playing around with the band switch. Sometimes, you know, the band switch is dirty and you scratch it, you know, you flip it back and forth and it scratches the contacts and it makes a good connection, but nothing was happening. And then I thought I heard something, so I put my ear right up to the speaker and I can just very faintly hear music. So I think it's picking up an AM broadcast station. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we got a worker. I just got to throw a piece of wire on there for an antenna. Well, all right. So the AM broadcast band is working perfectly fine. I can't get anything on the other bands, but I really don't have a proper antenna for that, so I'm not sure whether or not you know, it's a question of the receiver. I'm sure this could benefit from a tune-up and alignment and everything, but I'm satisfied with what I'm seeing right here. I'm just going to put this thing online and let somebody else take it from here. I paid so little for this thing, I'll be able to sell it real cheap, and maybe somebody else can turn it into a good piece for their collection.
So ultimately, if you want to follow Christ, you got to follow His commandments, and
so that was pretty quick. So why don't we throw the real basket case up here on the bench and see what that's like. So here's the other radio. oddly enough, this one looks cleaner than the previous one. Has a lot less corrosion, rust spots and stuff on it. This is a Hallicrafter's model S85. Front controls are pretty similar. Got a band switch, sensitivity, volume control, automatic voltage control, a noise limiter, AMCW, which means this also has a beat frequency oscillator in it. Tuning and band spread, only the dials are much larger for the band spread. They kind of match. Pitch control, a standby receive switch. Same deal here with the power on slash pitch control, tone control, high, medium, low. Less cooling holes or venting holes in the top. Speakers mounted in the top on this one. Not sure of the maker of that speaker. Let's get a little tube chart on this one. All the tubes are present. Oh, we got the dial indicator. Which one is this? This is okay. So that's this lamp here is off its mount. So you got one wire that goes to the bulb. So they must be relying on the case as the return path for the power to the bulb. That just appears to clip on. That's pretty easy. So the obvious problem with this one, for beginners, on the back here is that somebody cut the cord off. Got this thing again. Don't know what that is. Same antenna setup. We got something different here though. This is interesting. I don't think this terminal strip is original. Somebody's wired something in here. Standby and speaker. This must also be to control it with a tandem transmitter. Speaker, internal, external. Okay. It'd be nice if the only reason they cut that off was because of the fact that maybe it was a badly frayed cord. Alright, well I'm going to have to open this up anyways because I can hear what sounds like a coin sliding around in there. Maybe it'll be a $5 gold piece. Let's see, I think to get this cover off I first have to take the lid off. So there was only 2 screws left out of the 5 that's supposed to be in the back for the hinge here. That allows this to pop right off. I'm going to loosen these. Let's see, is this going to come off easily? No. The speaker doesn't unplug, so I'm going to take these two nuts off. Alright, that way the speaker can stay behind while I put the lid off to the side. Oh, you know what? I think this just fell out. So much for there being a coin in there. This looks like it's just the center thing for one of the dials, which actually that's kind of nice. I didn't even think I was going to find that in there. Yeah, so I think now if I take these bottom screws out and these 2 side screws here out, I think this whole case will slide off upwards from this orientation. Let's just make sure that was the only thing that was loose in the bottom of this chassis. Oh no, it wasn't the key. Oh, I wonder if anybody's been looking for this key. A key. I think that's Spanish. Even the key's interesting. It actually says Briggs and Stratton on it right over here, and then on the other side it's got the slogan, "Your key to better value." So I wonder if that's for an old lawn tractor or something. Oh, look at all these firecracker caps. I'm sure they're all just fine and none of them are leaky. Alright, line cord just comes right in here and goes right to this terminal strip. Oh yeah, that's all dry rotted. And oh, maybe that's all that was wrong with that cord. Maybe that's why they took it off. Maybe they cut it off for safety. I usually have pretty good luck compressing these strain reliefs with these duckbill pliers that I have. Yep, okay. fix that easy enough. Let's go find a cord. Alright, so I took a junk cord. I have a pile of cords that I cut off the things that I throw out. Oop. That I throw out over the years. I save the cords. Either use them for copper scrap wire, or in this case, this is a decent cord. This is actually a polarized cord. A lot of modern cords are going to be polarized. The one blade is wider than the other. The wider blade is the neutral, and the narrow blade is the hot or black wire. Wider blade being the neutral white wire. You can also tell which conductor is the neutral. There are ribs on the actual wire itself to indicate which side is the neutral side. If your outlet is not miswired, then that way you'll always know which one's the hot and which one's the neutral side, which when you're wiring it up to some things, it matters. In this case here, the reality is this is still, because of the nature of the beast, this old type radio and the way the circuit is made, it's still got some safety issues. So mainly the problem with this radio is a couple of capacitors. Actually on this model, I don't know if it has both of them, but there's a capacitor right here. This capacitor actually goes from this terminal right here, which is tied to one end of the primary of the transformer, and comes right from, it gets power right from the switch, and then it goes to ground. But the ground is the electrical ground for the radio. It's not actually grounded to the house ground circuit. We'd have to put a 3-prong plug on this to do that. So the problem arises with this capacitor. If it becomes leaky or shorts, now the power could actually energize this case. And then if you come along and you're grounded better and you touch the case or any of the metal parts, you now become the path of current flow and you can get a shock. So I tend to wire these polarized plugs so that the hot wire actually goes to the side that goes to the switch first. So when the switch is off, there's no power getting to that potential problem capacitor. But as soon as you turn the switch on, well, then the power flows through the circuit and you still could end up with a situation where the chassis becomes hot. So that's not ideal, but I digress. The proper way to make this radio safe would be to replace this capacitor with a modern safety cap. I believe they call them Y-rated caps. So you would put like a 0.05 or 0, I forget what the rating is of the cap, but like 250 volt Y cap. And then if you have the type of circuit where you've got that second cap that's across the line, that would be replaced with an X cap. The other problem with this radio is there's no fusing. The power comes right in from the line, goes right through the switch to the transformer, and right out of the transformer and back to the line. So if you get a short in this primary circuit, or really a short anywhere, that's going to cause it to draw enough current. The limiting factor of how much current it draws is only limited by the outlet it's plugged into. So if you get this plugged into a 20 amp outlet, you can imagine how much current could flow through this thing, which is not good. So ideally, we would wire in you could get a pigtail fuse, which is the type of fuse that has the wires on it. And actually, if this terminal hadn't broken, we could use that spare terminal to do that extra wiring of putting in a slow blow, like 3 amp fuse typically would be good. The reason why you want to use slow blow is because there's an inrush of current on these tube receivers, on this tube equipment. So you want to compensate for that. But then if you get some kind of a bad short in there and it ends up trying to draw more than the 3 amps, then your fuse will just blow. So anyways, enough about that. I'm going to leave all of that. I'm going to give all that information to the next owner of the radio, and chances are the person who buys this radio is probably somebody who's familiar with them, but I will inform them anyways. And let's see whether or not this thing will do anything now. Alright, just like with the previous radio, I'm going to start with the standby receive switch in the standby position, which should just give us filament voltage and maybe some dial lights. Looks like we get another bulb out just like on the last one. Yeah, we got filaments. Alright. Although that one is... well, that one doesn't look like it's lighting. I guess maybe it is. I'll back the voltage back down on the Variac. And we'll throw the switch to receive. Bring it up a little bit. Oh, jeez. Blew my eardrums out there. I touched the volume control. It's just the potentiometer's a little dirty. I had the oscillator on for CW. It's WWV.
E há ainda alguns hinos que remontam esse tema. Quando menino, toda vez que íamos à igreja, eles sempre iniciavam o culto com uma doxologia. O que dizia a última linha desse hino?
Louvado seja o Pai, o Filho e o Espírito Santo.
Mas isso contradiz as Escrituras. Vamos abrir em Deuteronômio e ler o capítulo 6.
Dos caldeus ficava.
Okay, so it's far from dead, but it definitely has some issues. All I did was unplug it from the Variac, and then when I plugged it in directly and turned it back on again, it was pretty much dead to receive. You know, clearly the audio circuits were still working, but it took a while for the receiver to come back to life, and there was a lot of noise and stuff in there too. So I think I might have a marginal tube or any number of things that could be causing that. See if I just put it to standby and I put it back on. Let's see if it comes back.
Podemos usar algumas palavras.
That seems
Estamos
okay.
efetivamente limitando nossa capacidade de comunicação.
I got another issue here. And that issue is what I suspected might be a problem with this thing. I have my DVM set to AC volts, and I have one of the test leads grounded to the metal case of the outlet that I have this plugged into. So that's my ground. And if I touch the other lead to the chassis here, well, there's 120 volts AC there. So one side of this chassis appears to be tied directly to the line, which would indicate to me more than likely that capacitor that I was talking about earlier is probably bad.